Bethany Dotson, relationship coach and trauma sensitive somatic therapist for high achieving women over the age of 40 who struggle to date, who are struggling to date, struggling to feel at peace with themselves and love their lives after a divorce or a narcissistic relationship. And today I want to talk to you about Mother's Day after your ex. And in my experience, when I've supported clients, it is often one of the urgency factors that propels them to actually seek support and change their patterns is a milestone during the year. And that milestone could be turning 55, 45, 40, 60, something along those lines. That milestone could be a holiday. That milestone could be the anniversary of their marriage. That milestone could even be her kids or her last child going off to college. And so I know from experience that Mother's Day tends to be one of those milestones. And it can be challenging for some, especially if you find that you are still not fully recovered from your ex-spouse or your ex. And it might be months, it might have been many, many years since you left that relationship, but you still don't feel like you're 100% emotionally healthy, like you have a strong foundation. And Mother's Day can bring up these that sense of I'm not emotionally healthy, what's wrong with me? You might reminisce about Mother's Days when you were with your ex. You might be sharing custody with your kids and your kids maybe with your ex for Mother's Day. You may look on social media and find, you have photos of family and colleagues and friends that look lovely on Mother's Day while you may still be struggling or more feel alone in that. And so I want to say, first of all, that there's nothing wrong with that mirroring that tends to happen when we have these milestones. And in fact, the discomfort of that mirroring around a milestone like Mother's Day or your birthday or the anniversary, your wedding anniversary, these are actually beneficial because for most women who struggle with their love lives, they are very, very good at just normalizing their circumstances. In fact, a lot of the people that I've worked with in the past have had other therapy, they've had other things that they've tried to heal themselves on their own, and they come into working together with a level of awareness. Yes, I'm aware that I'm the problem. I'm aware that my patterns in love stem from my childhood, all that stuff. But they often don't realize how deep into normalizing their stuckness they are until we start working together. So when you have these milestones, even though they are uncomfortable, they are also a mini wake-up call to get you to start paying attention to the fact that maybe you don't want to keep living like this anymore. Maybe you just got out of another short-term fling when you really want a long-term relationship. Maybe you haven't been on a date in a year or more and you're tired of feeling alone on the weekends. Maybe your kids are getting married and starting families of their own and you feel lost in that identity of like, I don't have my children to focus on anymore. Who am I without all of that? These milestones are important for bringing that back to the surface so that you can potentially make a different choice. You can make a choice to face that and choose to overcome your patterns and see different results in your emotional health and in your love life, or you can choose to continue normalizing your circumstances, which is what unfortunately a lot of women do to avoid pain. So the second point that I want to make is that often when women exit toxic relationships or a toxic marriage, they work really, really hard. 9 times out of 10, They worked super hard, probably more than they needed to keep that relationship going. And when they leave, that working hard ethic continues to show up in her life, where she succeeds in her career even more. She gets another degree. She gets another job promotion. She starts leading the department. She becomes like the go-to wise friend for all of her other friends who are still in unfulfilling marriages. She takes on a lot of hobbies, and she has this like peaceful life, right? She has a beautiful home. There is no eggshell walking going on at home. On the surface, like it looks like she's super like thriving, but underneath that exterior polished image and looking like she's got it all together, she still feels like something is missing. She still feels unfulfilled. There's a part of her that still feels empty with her life, even though she's created this peaceful, she's designed her life just the way that she wants it. And the biggest reason for this often is because she's still operating with the same subconscious programming. And the key word here is subconscious, that got her into dysfunctional relationships. And that subconscious programming is often built on the foundation of I am not lovable unless I'm achieving, or unless I'm working hard, or unless I'm doing more. And what I often see happen for a lot of women is they will fix their life, right? They are inherently fixers by nature. And they will continue to do all of the right things outside. But the subconscious stuff, the subconscious patterns that are still wired in her brain and her nervous system are still operational. They're still going. And it's like whenever you try to, maybe you are familiar with Macs, if you don't update your OS when you have a software update, what happens is that your applications start glitching. Your browsers might start running slowly, things start acting weird. And this is the same thing when a woman exits a toxic relationship. That toxic relationship is just a mirror of her own unhealed stuff that she's holding subconsciously. It's like her inner template. And the biggest thing that will keep you feeling stuck even years after you've left that relationship is you still have that inner programming. And a lot of women, not a lot, but some might think that well, I just can fix this myself, right? Hyperindependence is a trauma response. And what I often see happen is they do all of the right things, but they're not accessing their subconscious. In order to shift your subconscious programming and to shift the patterns that are embedded in your nervous system, the stuff gets coded in when you're little. You have to learn how to regulate your nervous system. And regulation looks a lot different than a high achieving woman's MO. It looks like doing less. It looks like relaxing. It looks like setting boundaries and upholding those boundaries and learning how to overcome the feelings of guilt and shame without shopping, drinking a glass or a bottle of wine every night, being a workaholic to numb your feelings, without these unhealthy coping strategies. So it's not that you're broken if you feel stuck still after your divorce. It's not that you're inherently unlovable or that you're never going to be able to find a healthy relationship. It's simply that you are lacking a skill set that you probably never had, right? Otherwise, if you had that skill set, your relationship history would look a lot different. So it's simply a skill set and learning to master a different skill set that rewires that nervous system and that brain out of your old stuff and into a new way of being. I'll cover 3 mistakes with you that I see most often that will continue to keep you in a sense of stuckness. And these are by far the most common 3. The first one is kind of a reiterating on what I just talked about. Being like the overcorrection, I'm going to overcorrect my life. I'm going to sign up for therapy. I'm going to sign up for leadership coaching. I'm going to sign up for coaching to start my business. I'm going to join a marathon. I'm going to join Orange Theory Fitness. I'm going to like load myself with hobbies. I'm going to load myself with chronic busyness. And what is really happening, those things are all good, by the way, but what is really happening most of the time is that if you lean too far forward into overcorrecting your life, what's fueling that is a trauma response. When you exit a toxic relationship where there was a lot of eggshell walking, internal chaos, emotional abuse, your body gets trained to live in a fight or flight response. And that does not end when you leave the relationship. Your body is still trained to live in a fight or flight response. In fact, if you had a chaotic childhood or a childhood where you were competing with a parent's issues, or maybe you had a normal childhood, but you were super smart and you learned that being super smart could be intimidating and you learned to dim your light. All of these things cause your nervous system to live in a miniature state of fight or flight. And so when somebody leaves a toxic relationship or toxic marriage and they get into their single life and they're trying to figure out who they are again, their nervous system is still in fight or flight. So she tries to match that energy by overdoing it. And what I often find happens is that women who do the overcorrection pattern feel even more defeated because what they're doing isn't correcting the foundation root cause, which is her nervous system and her subconscious programming. Second trap that I see women make is jumping into dating too soon. They think I've wasted enough time on this 20-year marriage or this 15-year marriage or whatever. And they think that the moment that the divorce is finalized, the ink's not even dry. She might even start dating before she even filed for divorce. This is there's not one, and I've spoken with thousands of women at this point, there's not one example, not one, that I can think of where this has turned into something healthy. Almost 100% of the time, what's really happening and what is fueling that pattern to date after a divorce, soon after, when she hasn't even done any healing work on herself, is an abandonment fear, that old subconscious programming of I'm not enough, the scarcity mindset, I'm getting older, there's not enough time left, I'm running out of time, there are less available men my age, so I might as well get out there right now and get a head start on things. And I can tell you, and this has been my personal experience as well, if that is your pattern, you are going to continue running into the same patterns with men or partners that you date. It's going to be the same thing over and over again because you haven't fixed the root cause, which is yourself. You haven't corrected that nervous system, that attraction pattern to being drawn to uncertainty, to anxiety provoking relationship dynamics. You haven't increased your capacity from a nervous system and a subconscious level to learn how to receive love without waiting for the other shoe to drop. So that's the second trap, just jumping right back into dating. I'm going to date and I see often women do this when their ex especially has moved on super fast, or their ex, they got a divorce and their ex remarried 6 months later, or their ex was dating somebody all throughout the separation and the divorce process. It's almost kind of like a revenge tactic. Don't do it. Don't fall for it. It's not going to be the right path for you. And then finally, I would say probably the most damaging pattern and the most insidious that I see women make that keeps them trapped in stuckness after a divorce or a narcissistic ex is the trap of silently suffering. She hides what's really going on for her to her friends, to her family, to her colleagues. In fact, she portrays that everything is fine. She might be so good at convincing herself that everything is fine that she is numb to her own life. She doesn't really feel happy. She doesn't really feel sad. She just feels apathetic and not motivated and not excited about her life. And the silent suffering trap is often what she did inside the walls of an unfulfilling relationship to kind of just keep it going and to maintain the status quo. Women specifically who attract commitment phobic, emotionally unavailable partners, narcissistic partners, have an inner relationship template that tends to be, not all of the time, but tends to be wired more towards an anxious attachment style. And so what will what will happen is that when somebody has an anxious or even an insecure attachment style, is that they ultimately have a fear of abandonment or a fear of rejection. And when they get into a relationship, the first tactic that they're going to do to prevent abandonment is to try and convince their partner to change. The second tactic is they will try and change themselves to fit that relationship. And then the third and final tactic, when the first two don't work, and they never do, is they numb themselves. And they numb themselves with a lot of excuse making, with this is just how it is, nobody's perfect, all relationships have problems. And they become emotionally numb. And again, that doesn't necessarily go away the moment she steps out of that relationship. It often continues. So if you're finding yourself resonating with this today, I want you to know that no, there is nothing wrong with you. You are likely experiencing relational trauma, and that takes a specific set of skills to overcome, and it takes certain methods. What we know from research is that reading obviously isn't going to fix that. It gives you insights, but insights don't transform patterned behavior and behaviors you've adopted based on limiting beliefs of I'm not enough. What we also know is that simply talking about your circumstances, while is extremely validating and it feels good to be heard and it feels good to be seen, when we're talking about relational trauma, these are patterns that are stored in your nervous system specifically. And it takes a method that addresses and focuses on your nervous system to begin undoing those patterns and increasing your awareness around triggers in your life that bring up those unhealthy patterns. And somatic therapy is one way that we address your nervous system. So if you want more information, if you're a woman over 40, if you resonated with this, if there's a part of you that's like, I'm so tired of feeling like I'm in my own way, I'm so tired of feeling stuck, the next thing that would be ideal is to watch the free masterclass, Break the Cycle. I cover the 5 steps. It's like a 5-step blueprint for overcoming your subconscious blueprints and the relational trauma that you've experienced that's causing you to continue repeating these patterns of stuckness, continuing to date emotionally unavailable men, continuing to avoid dating, all this stuff. I walk you through the 5 steps that I work more closely with my clients on. So I give you like the high level overview. So you can watch that, go to BethanyDotson.com/masterclass. And then if you're ready to have an honest conversation about changing, I should say an honest, courageous conversation about changing your love life patterns, not necessarily so that you can run out and meet Mr. Right, but so that you can finally love you and love your life and love your body and all of the perimenopausal, menopausal changes, and love yourself despite making a shit ton of mistakes in your relationship choices, and truly build that inner foundation for a lasting relationship. And then learn how to date from that place. Then go to BethanyDotson.com/talk, and you can schedule a free discovery session to see if we are a good fit to support you in that journey. If we are not a good fit, if it's not like a perfect match, and just for context, whenever there's a coaching or therapeutic relationship around such a personal issue like anxiety or depression or relationship issues, relationship patterns, it's shown in research that the client's results are paramount on there being good synergy between their coach or their therapist. So if it just for whatever reason doesn't feel like a good fit, then I will do my best to either give you a next step. Maybe that's a prerequisite assignment. Maybe that's referring you to somebody else. And if it is a good fit, then I will talk to you about the options that are available to work together. So bethanydotson.com/talk. Requirements for that call: you are single. Maybe you are at the tail end of a situationship and you just need more accountability to stay done with that. But if that is the case for you, you've got to be 100% ready to take ownership of your own behavior and to focus 100% on yourself, not the other person. Second thing, you've already had some personal development work. You've already tried therapy, helped. You're currently in therapy, but you feel like you're just missing a system. You need a plan. You need steps. You need guidance. You need to know what you're doing every week, every day. You need like a roadmap. The final thing, this is for you, if like every other area of your life is solid. You're successful in your career. You're successful in your home life. You're like every other part of your life is going well, except your love life and this inner sense that like, I'm still stuck. Why am I still stuck months or years after my ex? I feel like I should be over this by now, but I'm not. If that's you, bethanydotson.com/talk. Happy early Mother's Day, and I will see you soon. Take care.